Hey, nice to meet you finally.
Yeah, you too. You look like a very professional young man.
I appreciate that. So my name is Mitchell Moose. I am the editorial manager at Cryptoslate, your source for original and compelling news in the crypto space. Today, we're happy to have Justin Sunerok Avalo, the founder and lead developer behind the popular privacy coin Verge.
That's me.
Yes, sir. So, well, one thing that this is recorded, so just as a so you know as a courtesy journalist thing. So for those unacquainted, what is Verge? For those listening.
Verge is a blockchain project that started in 2014 by myself. Um, and basically, it was just meant to be a fun, privacy-based, Bitcoin-based, cryptocurrency. And it evolved into much more.
Awesome. What do you prefer to go by, just for clarification?
You can call me Justin.
All right, Justin. So what's your background, and how did you initially get involved in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space?
My background, well, I got into programming when I was about 8 years old. I went to a gifted school in New York. It was the only class that I liked. Um, you know, I, I think it has a lot to do with the teachers I had. I didn't really like the individuals themselves. Other than my computer teacher, he was just a fantastic human being. Really, really nice guy. And once he saw that I took a liking to computers, he kind of let me do whatever I want, which, obviously, helped in my passion. He let me develop my passion and just kind of work with it. And, eventually I didn't even have to follow assignments anymore. He just kind of let me do my own thing. As far as cryptocurrencies, well, after high school, I got out. I got into networking, became a network administrator, worked for a Fortune 500 in Boston. Did that for a few years, and then I decided to start working for myself. And I did that for a very long time. Ran my own little network security company, an LLC. And then in 2011, 10, I started hearing a lot more about Bitcoin from friends, and eventually I kind of just jumped in head first.
That's fantastic. So what was your motivation for starting Verge? Because you know that the privacy coin space isn't necessarily quote unquote virgin. So what kind of pushed
Well,
you to
well,
go into
in
there?
2014 it was. I mean, are you familiar with any of the projects, the privacy coins that were available in 2014?
Wasn't it like Bitcoin?
Yeah,
Maybe
Bitcoin. Bitcoin was pretty much it. Monero,
well,
and
like
and those
super
coins
early
didn't.
Monero.
They didn't really offer any privacy back then either. This was still in the early stages. So there were really there were not any really privacy coins back then, and the market had become so diluted with basically proof of stake coins that were almost all identical.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, there was really nothing out there, nothing unique, and really every project. I was running a mining pool at the time, a proof of work mining pool. Um, and I just kept, as the admin, it was like every day I was adding 2 or 3 coins, and every day I was removing 2 or 3 coins,
Yeah.
because they were just coming and going, and all of these guys had these fancy OPs on Bitcoin Talk that were promising all this stuff, and nobody was delivering, of course, and they all had a pre-mine. They were all like, "Oh, we pre-mined only a 0.5% or 1% of the total supply." Sometimes you'd even see up to like 5% or 10%. But none of the projects delivered, and it became a huge pain in the ass for me to keep adding coins and taking off coins. And I'm like, man, this is just becoming so old. After months and months, it was like, maybe, I'd worked with the code for a while now, compiling coins nonstop. So I decided, hey, maybe I should just make my own project for fun. I had met a lot of people through IRC in the cryptocurrency community. And a few people were like, yeah, why not? All these other guys are doing it, and, they're pre-mining and, profiting from just making, crap and, hot air promises. So
Mhm.
go ahead and do it. So I decided, all right, I'm going to try to do a fair launch and just, launch a blockchain and see how it goes, and actually try to set goals and actually work on them. And that's what we did.
So when was like the first day that you started working on what became Verge?
Probably the summer of 2014. That's when I actually started playing with different code bases, both with Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Peercoin, Seedcoin. And I was just kind of working with them all, and changing variables and seeing how they all worked, and learning how the Merkle tree works, learning how the Genesis block works, and really just kind of actually reviewing the code base piece by piece, because I wasn't working with everything and just compiling it for the pool. So I really had to take a look at more of the guts. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's, 2014 summer is really when I started. And we actually held a community, like a little community contest to see who could make the best graphics, because I'm not really a graphics guy. And I let everybody vote on it, and the best, the highest voted piece is who became our graphics.
Nice.
It was a good time.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, you guys are one of earlier, if not one of the earliest, privacy coin projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're actually the first. We're actually pioneers in a lot of senses. We're the first to put I2P into a lot of our our components. Like we're the first I2P Electrum server.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first to have. I think we were actually probably the second to have I2P nodes. Anoncoin was actually another privacy coin in the space. And they were actually a fantastic project. They were actually the first coin to start building I2P into their code base itself, similar to how we have Tor as a submodule now. And they were actually a really fantastic coin. All the devs were anonymous. And I think there was really just, there was a lot of infighting back then, and a lot of communities were, kind of splitting off into, where they want the projects to go. And they were really a fantastic project, but we were definitely the second to actually start having I2P nodes. We had, I2P Electrum servers, stuff like that. We really focused, we were trying to focus on all the new, aspects of privacy and stuff that people hadn't done before.
That segues perfectly into my next question here. So,
sure.
On those aspects of privacy, what differentiates Verge or makes Verge a better choice than other mainstream privacy coins now, like Zcash or Monero?
Well, that's the thing is, you can't really say that one is necessarily better than the other, because right now they're all offering different technology. And there's a lot of different opinions on how privacy should work on a blockchain. You have a completely opaque chain like Monero, which a lot of people complain that it's difficult to see if there's double spend attacks, if there's any exploits, stuff like that. But again, we focused on user privacy for their physical location and their home address. So our first goal was really to eliminate IP addresses from the network. And both of those coins, right? Well, actually, I think Zcash comes with Tor out of the box now. But it didn't then, and Monero still doesn't. I know Monero is supposed to work on Kovri, but I don't know if that ever happened. I know they raised a couple $100,000 to get that done, but and that was some years ago, and I'm not sure if it ever actually came to fruition or not. But to me, basically, there's really only, I think, Zcash that actually comes with Tor out of the box. So it's like, if I can use a network client to actually locate your home, if I can come to your house and knock on your door and say, hi, I found you through your coin's network because your IP was in the debug log, I feel like that's probably not privacy. If I've never met you and, you've never met me, and I say, hi, I found you through this coin, is that coin really private?
So you were really focusing on that location/IP based segment initially.
Yeah. Right, and that was actually, at the time, that was the most common way that people could trace any transaction, through Bitcoin or Litecoin or any of these other coins, was tracing back to your IP address by running enough nodes on the network and checking against peer logs.
Very cool. How is Verge development funded, just for clarity's sake?
We're all volunteers. I've been volunteering for almost 5 years now. And we have a huge team now, and it's just all volunteers. Everybody does it because they like the vision. We're probably one of the only coins without a pre-mine or an ICO. So I think that also makes us one of the safest. So I think that Verge kind of makes people feel safe. I can get involved in this and not have to worry, is the SEC going to arrest one of the founders? Is somebody going to dump a billion of these because they pre-mined it and they're going to walk away? Stuff like that. And I've been hearing since 2014, oh, Justin's going to dump on everybody and leave one day, and here I am. I'm still here working
5 years
away.
Later.
Yeah. I mean, I think that argument's kind of come and gone now, but
So how do you pay the bills? I guess, do you have another day job?
Well, like I said, I got into Bitcoin very early. And before I actually started building Verge, I was kind of just doing development for hire stuff. Different coins would hit me up, like Ruby Coin would say, "Hey, can you help us with our Electrum server and build us an Android wallet?" And I'd say, "Sure, you can just pay me in Bitcoin." And back then, Bitcoin was like, 100, $200.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did really well from Bitcoin. Bitcoin definitely allowed me a lot of freedom in my life to be able to pursue this kind of stuff. And that was actually one of the decision makers in when I decided to launch Verge, was that, I have enough money to do this project, and I have enough money to, take a year off from actually needing to seek work actively. So let's see what happens. And it was successful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Financial freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not a Roger Ver or anything. I don't have a whole lot of Bitcoin, and I'm not living in a palace. But it's
But
it's
you have
it's
enough just to focus on what you want to do, which is still
right,
fantastic.
right, and that's what I consider financial freedom. I don't think financial freedom is being able to jump on a yacht and cruise the Mediterranean. But I think that it's if it allows you time to focus on what you want to do and your passion, then that to me is the freedom.
So why don't you take us into what an average day looks like for you? What do you do on a typical day?
People probably can't imagine. Well, I know that people on the team can imagine how busy it gets with DMs on, I don't know, maybe a dozen different platforms.
I can imagine everyone's trying to get a piece of your attention.
Yeah, and you work in crypto news, so I'm sure that you're constantly checking a million different platforms for stuff that's going on or to contact different people. So yeah, I mean, I get on a slow day, I get dozens of messages on every platform you can think of. And then on top of that, I'm in a chat room with other developers, that work on Verge now, and we constantly talk about bugs and how to fix them, and we review pieces of the code or new pieces of code, and talk about direction. Stuff like that. And then every once in a while, I pop into community chats and say hello to everybody and stuff like that.
No family, no other, I guess, other stuff.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're talking about just a day in my life, yeah, I wake up, I make breakfast for my daughter. I have a 3-year-old.
Okay.
You know, so yeah. I mean, I definitely, family first. Work second.
Yeah, of course. I guess it's just sometimes people, when they look at the crypto space, they just think of all these people sitting in hoodies in dark rooms, especially in the privacy coin space, and don't realize that these are
Right.
people who have families and
Oh yeah.
who have
Yeah.
normal things in their life, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, Verge can affect my family.
Really?
For instance, when we've had mining exploits in the past, I've stayed awake for days, working on fixes for them, and talking to different exchange, admins and pool admins, and trying to get everything on track and make sure that people update on time, and troubleshooting with them, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Generally, if there's something big going on, I end up staying awake for a couple of days.
Hmm. That segues into another question I was going to ask, is that around the reported 51% attack back in, what was it, May of 2018?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, why don't you give us some details on what happened there and just clarify how the community was able to recover and kind of where some of the
Well,
costs for that?
So we've had a few. I'll take you back even before that. 2016, we were not multi-algorithm yet. We
Yeah.
were script based, and we had our first time warp attack, and it was devastating. It was like I woke up and everybody's freaking out, and all my platform icons are blinking, and I have DMs everywhere, and we said, oh my God, somebody with so much hash power is just completely taken over our chain, and
Mhm.
we were one of the first coins to get hit, and it was because that's when we started actually getting some monetary value to it. So it made us obviously a target. Generally the coins that actually are valued are the ones that have target. I mean, there's probably coins below the top 100 that have exploits sitting them as well, but it's not really worth it for people if there's no fungibility and they can't really liquidate whatever they are able to exploit. Um, so after that attack, we stayed awake for days. We forked into a multi-algorithm. We said, this is probably the best idea. Is they won't be able to control all 5 algorithms. Um,
Mhm.
so that's what we did. We forked, and then 2 years later, we faced our next exploit, which was um, I wouldn't really call it a 51% attack. It was more of a spoof in difficulty attack.
Oh yeah, I've read a little bit about this where the difficulty didn't adjust because it was multi-algorithm for all of them. Uh,
It was essentially basically most code bases work by whoever has the longest blockchain is the winner.
yeah.
So basically what it is if you're able to create your own node system
Hmm.
and you're able to listen on the network but not send anything back to the network, you can essentially lower the difficulty yourself. And then once you have such a low difficulty, you can obviously mine blocks very quickly once you throw on some higher hash power. This will make your block height accelerate rapidly. And then once you actually connect to the network's going to see, oh, wow, look how long this chain is. This must be the right one. And if you have multiple nodes, you're going to become, consensus. So that's what happened. We didn't have a perfect fix. We just knew that if we had closed the time drift itself, it wouldn't be monetarily worth it for them to only be able to do this for a few minutes. I think our drift was like a few hours. I think it was about 2 hours. And in 2 hours, mining blocks at 1 second or 2 seconds between can obviously be very profitable. If you're only allowed to do this for a couple of minutes, it's not very profitable. You might break even or end up spending money on it. So once we pushed that, we knew that at least bought us a window. And we said, it's time that we rebase and bring this up to speed with the latest Bitcoin code base, which was actually really difficult because I had actually initially forked from Seedcoin, which was a pure proof of stake, and made it strictly proof of work. So there were a lot of little kinks to work out, but eventually we were able to do it. It took a while.
I know that a 51% attack can undermine some confidence in a community project. Do you have any statements you want to make about it, just in general, about how you've been able to recover from these and what's your plan for?
I think our community is pretty awesome, and I think that most people see something like that and realize it's because Verge has value.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's why we didn't really lose our community over it. Our community is still just as big as it's ever been. All of our chat platforms are just insanely packed with people. We have like tens of thousands on them. And I think that that's why I think people, it's like, Verge is getting attacked. Well, why are they getting attacked? Oh, because it's valuable. Why? Because it's got a really big community. It's and we actually do work. We push work out. Even during in this bear market, we've been making partnerships. We've been updating software, releasing new software. So
Yeah, why don't you talk about some of the bigger partnerships you have and some that you're kind of gunning for in the future?
One thing I get a lot of slack for is the MindGeek partnership. I get accused a lot of just stealing the money and running, which obviously didn't happen. The wallet that we raised the money to for MindGeek belonged to MindGeek the entire time, so I never even had access to those funds. And I saw it as a really good opportunity because they're one of the largest companies on the internet. Completely. I mean, they're almost like the size of Facebook. They're huge. And I thought I still think to this day it was a great move because it got so much attention. And it was another first in the cryptocurrency space. All these coins, I'm sure you're familiar, a lot of coins had come out, even ICOs raising money, promising to be the token or coin for the adult industry.
Yeah,
And none of them did it. And where did all that money go? Where did they do with that ICO? Where are those guys? So I still think it was a really good move. It got us publication in every major media outlet, Wired, TechCrunch, all that stuff. So I still think it was a really good move. And what was the second part to that question?
I only thought it was just some of your partnerships, and then some partnerships you're gunning for right now.
Most recently, we partnered with NetSense, which turned out to be really massive.
Mm-hmm.
They're a payment platform for vendors, and similar to coin payments, but they're really, really motivated, driven guys. And it's crazy actually. They're also making announcements like every week. They're doing something new. They're getting more partnerships. So that's probably our second largest partnership. Really, is the NetSense deal.
That's fantastic. I guess this also plugs into another question that I had. Is I'm not saying this in an accusatory way, and I don't take this lightly, but there has been quite a bit of controversy around the 51% attacks and a lot of accusations against you and your community that you've been either like stealing funds or a lot of just kind of rumors.
Where would I steal funds from?
That, I mean, I have no idea. I'm just talking about comments from some of these detractors that have been talking about your project?
The way I see that kind of stuff is, I think, well, it's a very cutthroat space. I'm not sure if you've ever delved into the world of like penny stocks, but they're very similar in the sense where, you find these forums where people are constantly bashing, the CEOs, or other chiefs of the company. Gloom and doom stuff like, oh my God, this company is terrible, da, 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 trying to manipulate markets. So I had already dealt with that kind of stuff, and I had been involved in some stocks. Not been involved as a in a project, but I had invested in stocks before, so I'm really familiar with that kind of mentality. And I'm from New York, so I have very thick skin. Insults don't really bother me, and I'm pretty much from the internet. I've been on the internet for so long that I'm used to trolls, and I've been a troll, and I see accusations all the time, but it's like, I challenge anybody that wants to talk bad about me to come talk to me on a live stream. That's why me and you were talking. I didn't like the articles that you had written about Verge. So I said, well, let's do a live stream. And surprisingly, you're one of the only people I think that hasn't backed down from me.
Really?
Yeah.
That is surprising. I mean, the first article I wrote about you was indeed a little bit pointed. This was 9 months ago before we really started to have a much higher emphasis on being more objective than we were back then in terms of crypto.
I'm not sure if I saw that one, but I'm sure that you dealt with the community backlash from it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing, is that you guys have such a strong community that it's kind of gotten to the point where some people criticize, like XRP Army, that the Verge community will kind of like come after you if you start bashing on them. And
yeah, well, I mean, you have to remember, investing to people can be an emotional thing,
yeah,
and rightly so.
absolutely.
Most people are not rich, and if you're putting your money into something that you believe, it kind of becomes sacred to you. That becomes your baby, and you want to see it come to fruition. You want to see it grow, and you want to see it get better. And of course, just like, if it was your child, you want to defend it from bullying and that kind of stuff. So
Totally understandable.
yeah. So and I have no control over what the community does. I've seen a lot of controversial things happen within the community, and I just kind of sit by and watch because that's just part of how this works.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of an open source project, right?
Absolutely.
There's only so much you can do.
And it's not even just that we're an open source project. I mean, crypto itself is, for the most part, vastly open source.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are hands-on, and there's a lot of investors. So I mean, it's not even just Verge. It's Verge is one of many in a world of that. So I'm sure that whatever rank we are, for number 40 something on CoinMarketCap, you have 40 some odd coins above you that want to maintain their position, that don't like you, and there you have 2,000 some odd coins below you that want to pull you down and climb over you.
Yeah.
So so I'm used to that kind of stuff. I get asked that question a lot, and I think that people generally expect me to have some kind of emotional reaction, or at least say that I have an emotional reaction to, and I really don't. If I did, I definitely wouldn't be here right now.
Emotional reaction in which way? I'm trying to.
When people just talk negatively, that it would eventually make me leave and discourage me. Yeah, I'm a very competitive guy, and I always have been. So that kind of stuff, I see that more as fuel. It's kind of like sugar to me. I'm like, oh, okay, this is a good thing. People are talking, and whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, that ties into another one of my questions is,
Sure.
What are your personal objectives to get out of this project? Like, what are you getting out of being one of the, I guess, founders and spearheads of Verge currency? And what are you trying to get out of it, like in a lifelong term thing? Is this your end goal? Do you want to retire working for the Verge community?
I'm not sure how people will react when I answer this, but everything that I've done in my life, I strive to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I was in gymnastics, and I eventually made it into junior Olympic gymnastics. I ended up lifting weights, and I became a state champion powerlifter here in Florida. Verge has become the top in volume out of all cryptocurrencies for about a week straight, where we were even getting more volume than Bitcoin. So honestly, I want it to be the best. I have that mentality, and I'm very competitive, and I have no shame in admitting that. I want to see Verge be number one. That may or may not ever happen, but I'll settle for number 2 or number 3 and know that I did my best.
Thanks for sharing that insight. I think that people will like that for sure. So I guess I'll open a few of these community questions. So
Yeah,
Toby
absolutely.
asks, what can the hashtag Verge Army and Verge fam do to help the project with mass adoption? And what would you like to say about all that doubt the validity and success of this project? End quote.
I would say that the Verge fam is already, doing what they need to do. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't retweet anything about this from my account or from the Verge account, but they found your post and people are responding to you and you got a lot of attention from it. So the Verge fam is already doing what they need to do. I mean, they find everything. People bring stuff to my attention all the time, just random community members. Hey, did you see this? Did you see this? Hey, what do you think about this? So they're already doing it, and I think that the community couldn't really even be any better. There's people in the community that are almost as active or as active as people that are actually on the team. That they're in front of the computer 18 hours a day, and they're either people that are hungry to one day have a very high valued cryptocurrency portfolio, or they're people that already have a high valued cryptocurrency portfolio that can spend the time doing it. But I see just as much motivation and energy from both sides. So I think that they're already doing it. I think they're great. And I mean, this coin would be nothing without them.
Second part of that question is, what would you say to all those that doubt the validity and success of this project? So I think you answered that a little bit earlier, but
yeah, I mean, I'm still here. It's 2019, and here I am. So I mean, and especially if you go back to our Bitcoin talk thread when we first launched, I mean, you should see what people the accusations that came out. Oh, this guy's never going to be here. He's going to leave in a week. He's going to dump on everybody. And here I am.
Yeah, I've even seen people like dig up your old rap records from like 2013, just all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah, I've had people ask me, before an interview, hey, do you mind if we bring that up? I don't care. I'm an open book. When people say, hey, I read once that you were arrested for mushrooms, I just say, yeah, I was. What are you, some kind of square?
Yeah, I guess why don't you touch on that? Why don't you just dispel that? Like,
I was arrested once for marijuana. That's before I got a medical marijuana card. And then I had stupid stuff from when I was in my late teens and early 20s. Sometimes I'd get a ticket, for not wearing a seatbelt or something. I'd crumple it up and throw it away, and I'd forget all about it. And then my license would get suspended.
Yeah.
Just stupid stuff for not being irresponsible. I mean, there's nothing on my record that's like malicious or something that's like, oh my God, keep your kids away from him. And I mean, at this point, I'm a father. I work at the computer all the time, and I'm responsible. I had a great time in my 20s. It was amazing. I wouldn't give it. I wouldn't change any of it.
So,
how old are you, by the way?
I'm 22.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm still going through those times.
Oh, so you were a teenager when I started Verge.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have experience in journalism before Cryptoslate?
No, I mean, I've been a writer for a greater portion of my life, and I've just been involved in startups ever since college. So just jumping from one startup to another.
Any startups I've heard of?
No, they've all been tiny. My first one was developing an algorithm to compete with NiceHash. So GPU switching between different,
profit switching.
Yeah, profit switching, but there's a lot of friction in between those switches that caused quite a few problems. So I partnered with a fellow from Facebook and a couple other of my peers at University of Washington. We built some pretty cool, interesting software that back in the day was a lot more lucrative than just trying to do single mining for one coin at a time, because it would automatically and algorithmically convert those coins into any target currency and then compare that like a moving average. So
sure, like basically like how multiples work.
Yeah.
I understand.
That was my first.
Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years?
Personally, still doing the same thing I'm doing now. Like, I live out of a overhead suitcase. I've been traveling for like the last 8 months, I just finished working at another company that I was doing as a project manager, development with Hyperledger and a lot of decentralized kind of distributed databases. So I was working out of the UK, and then for the last 3 months, I was setting up an office for them in Bangalore. Hired like 5 people out there and just did some cool stuff.
Gotcha. And now you're back on the west coast of the U.S.
Yeah, now I'm back in Seattle. So
cool. How do you like it out there?
It's cold, it's rainy, but I don't think I'll
Yeah,
go anywhere else home.
that's what I always hear, man. I don't know why people live there.
Yeah, it is a good question, but I guess Silicon Forest, like there's a lot of software stuff going up here, and it's not
Sure.
like LA, not super expensive. So I think there's quite a bit of opportunity in Seattle, and
Gotcha.
there's a very rapidly growing blockchain scene. Neo is doing stuff here. A couple other projects are like getting started here. So I think that it's going to be one of the hubs of the United States for sure. Second.
I like Neo. They're a good project.
So I guess I have a few more community questions for you.
Sure.
Anton Walker asked, I saw that on your website you have like a timeline. Like when do you expect like some of this stuff to get done? RSK smart contracts, iOS beta.
I've actually been emailing with RSK. We initially started talking to RSK probably 6 months ago or so,
Mhm.
and we kind of put that off until we updated the code base. So now that we have an updated code base, we've actually started talking again, and they've got a lot of stuff they're willing to offer us on, with a collaboration. So I'm really excited to get that stuff out there. But yeah, RSK is definitely going to happen. Especially now that our new code base is out, it makes it much easier. It's almost like plug and play. Whereas before, we had a very Frankenstein code base. Like I said, it was proof of stake based, even though it was proof of work. So I think that that's definitely going to come to fruition within the next few months. Our timeline, unfortunately, doesn't really get updated very often, or we use percentiles for how much a project is complete.
Mhm.
But as most people, I think, already know, we've already released our alpha of the newest code base,
Yeah.
and it's now public. And we're getting a lot of great responses. Still some bugs to work out, but I think that we're going to have a beta, here any week now.
Nice. Another person, there's always a lot of questions about price. Like, what are your feelings about the speculation around Verge, and like when, quote unquote, will Verge break its downtrending price? Another question.
See, that's one thing I think that's also helped me stay here this long, is that I don't care about the market at all.
Mhm.
Some investors don't like to hear that, but for my own sake, it's necessary. I mean, if I paid attention to charts all day, I'd become emotional. And as the founder, I've realized that I have a really big role and responsibility in this project, and so I don't have time to be emotional or look at the market, which I think kind of go hand in hand. I think I'm not that type, but I see a lot of TA guys on Twitter and stuff that seem to have just no emotion at all. And I don't think that I'd be able to do that. I think I'd end up becoming emotional if I actually attached myself to the markets like that.
Especially since it's your baby, like it's your project too.
Yeah, and I honestly, I wouldn't even. I have no interest in even learning TA and then any of that kind of stuff. And I don't know anything about it. I know that markets go up and down. That's all I know.
So Usain asked, do you still graffiti? And then my second part of that question is, if so, would you share some of your art?
I actually haven't done anything in quite a while. As some community members know, when I was a teen and in my 20s, my two favorite things were graffiti and hacking. That's what I lived for. I mostly stuck to trains, painting them. I haven't done graffiti in probably about 5 years now. Although I did about 6 months ago buy a lot of really large canvases, and I do plan on making a really big order of spray paint soon. So I think that the community will definitely know once I start painting again, because I'll start sharing that stuff from my personal accounts.
Awesome. I look forward to it. So I guess on a parting question, like what do you feel Verge currency's strengths are, and how about weaknesses, just as kind of our parting?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would say weaknesses in the past were definitely, I was managing so much by myself.
Mhm.
When we first launched and up until about a year ago, I had primarily done everything. I had released, our Android wallet, our Electrum servers, code base updates, and I was maintaining all of that stuff by myself. So I was all over the place. I really wasn't sleeping a lot. There's a lot of 3-4 day benders where I was just staying wide awake and working on stuff. Um, and so I'd say that now actually that's become one of our strengths, which is, everybody can only be so lucky to have one of their greatest weaknesses turn into one of their greatest strengths. One of our greatest strengths is definitely our community. Other than now, I have a small team of developers that work with me. They all kind of share the vision, and they know, and they're very talented. Um, I tried building an iOS wallet for Verge about 2 years ago, and I got so frustrated that I gave up within probably a week. It was just so frustrating for me. And then
Thankfully,
we
you got
have,
the system now.
yeah, now we have just this amazing, unique iOS wallet that's just fast and beautiful. So I don't really think that we have too many weaknesses anymore, to be honest. The only thing that's really difficult that a lot of people can probably understand is working with a very large team from all around the world can have communication issues. But that's really, I mean, that's but normal stuff, nothing overly dramatic. I'd say that we're a pretty well-oiled machine now. All of our once weaknesses are now strengths, and all of our strengths are still here. We still have a massive community and stuff.
Nice. I guess as a second part of that question is how does someone actually, if they do elevate beyond just becoming a Verge fan participant, how do they actually become part of the team? What's the governance process like?
Well, we have team members on all of our social media platforms, Telegram, Discord, stuff like that. So generally, people they kind of get to know you if you're a regular and you show up all the time, and you're just a positive person. Everybody kind of gets to know each other over a while. There's a lot of regulars in all of those rooms,
Mhm.
and so if people actually want to join the team, they generally will contact one of the administrators or moderators, and ask and push, say, hey, how do I become part of this? What do I do? On the development side, GitHub, I'm sure, as you know, is really easy to contribute to. You just basically make an account, pull the code, modify it, and then make a pull request, or open an issue with suggestions and stuff. So it's really easy, and it's kind of one of those things where you probably wouldn't know where to start until you actually got involved in our social media stuff, in our chat platforms, and you'd figure it out pretty fast on how you could join the team.
Gotcha. That's good to know. Do you have any other comments or statements for our listeners?
Uh, no, just, I look forward to getting this new code base out. And I hope that everybody's really excited about it, because I think that it's going to help the ball start rolling a lot faster as far as partnerships and, new software applications and stuff like that.
Fantastic. Well, cheers. Cryptoslate and myself would like to thank you for your time and your candor.